Hello, BookTube. I have a Brattle book haul for you, believe it or not. I do very few of those on this channel anymore because I don't go to the Brattle as often as I used to. And the occasion, this time around, was wonderful. It was Mark at Richardson Reads. Some of you subscribe to his channel. If you've been watching his channel or my channel lately, I've been spending, Frida and I went up to the old farmhouse up there in Vermont for the long Labor Day weekend. And when it finally very reluctantly got around to talking about breaking up the party because the kids have to go back to school, the adults have to go back to work, I have to go back to being on my couch. When it came around time to discussing the logistics of how to do that, which is, I might add, just as a parenthetical, there is nothing sweeter than those kinds of discussions when no one wants them to happen. That makes them sweeter. We were all enjoying ourselves. But nevertheless, real life has to intervene. And when we were having those discussions, we figured out that one way to add extra, just one last note of tremendous fun to the whole thing, would be if Mark drove me back and we stopped at the Brattle with Frida before we came to Hyde Cottage. So that's what we did. And it was a lot of fun. Mark has only been to the Brattle once before, and he was so astonished by the bounty of the outdoor sale carts, which most people that I bring there, they are astonished by that. He was so astonished by that he wasn't really able to focus on the inside of the store. Didn't even go to the second floor, which is where all the nautical history books are, which is, his street. And much less to the third floor, where the collectible books are. He still didn't make it to the third floor, but he did make it to the second floor this time around. And we shopped outside, we shopped inside the Brattle, and we could have stayed a lot longer, but I had a stressed-out miniature schnauzer, and I had a stressed-out Vermonter, and I was worried that both of them were going to start to piddle. So we had to cut short our Brattle bit just a little. I don't know if he'll make a video about the books that he found. I hope he does. But I want to make a small video about the ones that I found, because I don't make Brattle videos the way I used to at all. And those of you who aren't familiar, the Brattle is a used bookstore here in Boston, and they're a great used bookstore. And in addition to being a great used bookstore, they have a gigantic sale lot outside, right next to the bookstore, where there are $1, $3, and $5 books of all descriptions, no organization at all, and not junk. So you don't know what you're going to find out there, and it's always fun to go. It's always different. And I found a bunch of mass markets. All that I got today at the Brattle were mass market paperbacks. I found a bunch of murder mysteries. Mass market murder mysteries of a series that I really like, and it's actually utilitarian. I need to catch up on the series. A couple of these books I have not read, so I will determine their order and then read them. It's a series, a murder mystery series in series, and it's a Regency romance. It's a Regency period murder mysteries. It's by C.S. Harris, and it is the Sebastian St mysteries. He is a Viscount who is wounded during the Napoleonic War. He's really smart, really sharp. He has the kind of brain that Sherlock Holmes has, and he comes back to Regency London and starts solving murder mysteries. And I love the series, but I have missed books. There are a couple on here that I have not read. The first one, What Angels Fear, is one that I have read, but I read it in hardcover, so I think even an ebook. So I've never had it as a mass market. That's this. We've got very dodgy lighting here as the day clouds over. But that is What Angels Fear, and that is Sebastian St on the cover. Then we have Where Shadows Dance, which I have not read. Somebody must have just dumped all of these at the Brattle. Then Why Kings Confess, which I read and loved. This is probably my favorite of these books that I have read, but I've got a couple now that I haven't read to give it a little challenge. And then What Remains of Heaven. So I got 4 of these Sebastian St mysteries, each for $1, so it was nothing. And then the last book that I got demonstrates something that I've often mentioned about the Brattle sale cards. Not so much the inside of the store. The inside of the store is broken up into subjects. It's all alphabetized. It's relatively normal. It's recognizable as a used bookstore, even though the turnover on the inside of the shop is epic. So it's different from most used bookstores in that way. No, I'm talking about the sale carts. The sale carts are jumbled. They're not in any order or rhyme or reason at all. And one of the things that I always tell people is you can't bully the sale carts. You can't. The Brattle will provide something. It won't always provide exactly what you go in looking for. It'll often provide you with things that you didn't know you wanted, like these are a perfect example. And often it will fill in its own blanks, because the Brattle, those carts are stocked just like the stories by buying books from customers. And oftentimes, if you see a book in a series, like this is a perfect example, if you see a book in a series, you're probably going to find other books in the series. And you have to be patient. If you go there relatively often, you have to be patient. It's one of the only circumstances, the Brattle is one of the only places where I would actually recommend buying an odd book in a series, provided you're going to go back, because you're likely to see the other books in that series. And this last book is a perfect demonstration of that. The other day, I showed you 2 books that I bought at the Brattle. One was Dorsai by Gordon Dixon, one of his Dorsai books, and the other was a collection of short stories by the science fiction, just jack of all trades, just indefatigable science fiction writer Alan Dean Foster. A long, long time ago, 40 years ago, he did a collection of short stories called With Friends Like These. And he followed it up, of course, as you would, with a short story collection called Who Needs Enemies? And what I got I read With Friends Like These 40 years ago until my copy fell apart. I loved it. And when I found a copy of With Friends Like These at the Brattle just recently, I did a mail haul about it. If I remember, I will leave a link to it, but I'm out of practice. When I found that book, I said to you that almost certainly this means that somewhere down the line, the Brattle will also have Who Needs Enemies? And they did. So now I have the 2 of them. I will reinforce them, and hopefully they will last a good long time. And I will delight myself in rereading them. I haven't reread either of these books in 40 years. So, and now I knew when I saw With Friends Like These that whoever sold that to the Brattle must have sold them also Who Needs Enemies. So I just waited and was lucky enough to find it. So there we go. so that's a Brattle haul. I'm hoping that Mark does one too. But that's a Brattle haul. All mass market paperbacks, all candy that I will just chomp down in between far more serious bits of reading. But there's nothing wrong with that. And it was great to take Mark there and show him a little more of the shop, because that's a lot of fun. It was also great fun to introduce Frida to people at the shop who had not met her yet. Because the last time she went there, she was a little marmot that I carried in a shoulder bag because she was too weak to walk next to me. She was a tiny little puppy, 6-week-old puppy. It was the last time she was there. So it was new to her, and she got to meet everybody, and she had to scream and jump on people in the lot and say hello to them. So that is a Brattle haul. The only reason I'm doing it so soon after getting back here is because who knows when I'll go back to the Brattle. If I do, as usual, you'll be the first to know. I'll take you along. But I'm going to wrap this up for now. But I will be back. We will be sooner or later, we'll be right back on track for all the videos in the world from this channel. Thank you, BookTube.